Right, Charles Darwin, at the time of the voyage of the Beagle, was the one who proposed that animals evolved through natural selection. He said that animals that had long necks, like this one over here, had a selective advantage over those that had shorter necks, because at the lower levels there were other animals in competition for food resources. And so he said that those with longer necks were the ones that would have the selective advantage and have a greater probability of surviving. Other people came up with different scenarios, like Lamarck, for example, who said, no, it works like this. If you want to reach the top and you really stretch your neck to get there, eventually the neck will grow. All right, that was Lamarckism. And Darwinism was far more scientific. Of course, Lamarckism, if that were true, if you flapped your arms long enough, eventually you'd fly, right? We know that Lamarckism is not true. So how did Darwinism start? And Darwin himself was not really a pushy kind of fellow. Here is Darwin. He was a quiet, sort of reserved guy. But this man over here, Huxley, became known as Darwin's bulldog. He's the one who pushed the theory, fought the battles, and broke down the barriers. All right, so natural selection happens at the level of the phenotype. At the level of the genotype, everything happens by chance. Have you got that? Okay. So if we take that to the cellular level, our DNA is so complicated in the way that it is read. I will leave that one. The way in which we take the information of there to the factory, the ribosomes which make the product, the protein, all of it had to come about by chance, because the final fellow must be there before I know whether he works or that he doesn't work. So now let's say I've written the book and I want to make some changes to the book. Any change that I write in the book, how does it have to come about? By chance, through mutation. All right? So any modification in that genotype to bring about any change in the phenotype must come about by chance. So people will say, well, all these things are mutations, like a lighter animal or a darker animal or a this animal or a that animal. Let's have a look at mutations. You get various types of mutations. Simple one, as an example, would be a point mutation, where you take one of the letters in DNA and replace it. So you have DNA is a triplet code. We have how many letters in our alphabet? 26 letters. And we can use them individually. DNA has only 4 letters, and it uses them in groups of 3. So I can take a letter out, and I can add a letter, and I can get all these things happening over there. Let me simplify that for lay people. So let's make a triplet code, the cat and the hat. And let's say I have a mutation where I cut out the C, then I would read them in 3s as well. The, ata, hundete, he, at. Are you with me? So is the mutation good or is it not so good? So mutations are generally harmful. Even the ones that are so-called positives, like those that call sickle cell anemia, still make you sick. You get sickle cell anemia. It's a negative mutation. This slide over here of mutations has got nothing to do with mutations. It's just there to amuse you because I thought he looked cute. Now the first little cell is there. This is now Haeckel's gastraea theory. So there's your first little cell. And it has DNA, simple DNA, that says, you look like this. Okay? Then he says the cells started sticking together, then they formed the ball, then it formed a dent, and that's the basic body plan of all living animals. But you know, it's not as simple as that. He then went on to say all kinds of things about embryos recapitulating the evolutionary process, which has been discounted, and we haven't got time to go into that. And then he says that mutations and changes over time will be what brings about change. So let's say you had this first cell, and there's a gene which says you look like that, and you mutate the gene, then the cell could look different, and it could look like this one over there on this side. Are you with me? Okay, but that's not what we want. What's the difference between me and an amoeba? Well, I hope you see a difference. The difference is simply this. That's a unicellular creature. It's not a multicellular creature. What am I? I'm multicellular. I've got lots of cells. Do I have more DNA requirements than an amoeba? Yes or no? Of course. Now let's take a simple example. There's a muscle cell and there's a nerve cell. Does an amoeba have a muscle cell and a nerve cell? No, it's just a blob cell, right? Doesn't have a muscle cell, doesn't have a nerve cell. When I get more complicated and I start getting multicellular and I get specialization of cells, how do I get the cells in here to be nerve cells and the cells in here to be muscle cells? Well, you see, what happens is every single cell in my body has all the DNA it takes to be any other cell. Is that right? When I start off with the simple germ cell, the unification of the male and the female germ cell, that cell has all the genes for every cell. So the genes which say nerve cell are switched on in here and they're switched off in here. Are you with me? Okay, let's think about that. So let's say there must be, if there's a muscle cell, there must be a whole host of them, but let's make it very simple. Let's say a gene which says, hello there, you're a muscle cell. Is that right? Are you with me? And there must be a gene which also says, hello there, you are a nerve cell. Did the amoeba, the first creature, have that gene? So I have a question for you. Where does this extra gene now that the original one didn't have and didn't need, where does it come from? You are a nerve cell, you are a muscle cell. I need two promoters, that's the switches. You're switched on, you're switched off. I need genes controlling the physiology, how to develop so that the one grows and works properly. I need genes controlling the embryology, that they work together. Where do all these extra genes come from? These snails over here, every single one of them was classified as a different species in the past. Today we know they're one species, just different genes expressed at different times. Butterflies come with different shapes and sizes and colors and different seasons. Same species, different genes activated. Where do those genes come from? So you can have one butterfly of the same kind, looking like this one season and like that one season. It just was a different gene expression. If you take this ladybird, it's black in the spring and it's got the red and white and the red and black structure in the fall. Two species or one species? One species, different sets of genes. All of these are one kind. If you take the pocket mouse, white in a snowy background, dark on a rock background. Genes that oscillate from white rabbit in the winter to dark rabbit in the summer. Different expressions of the genetic potential in that animal. Also mountain lizards to coastal lizards, all these changes. We're dealing with genes. Darwin comes along and he says, no, survival of the fittest. The persecutions and the racism that we have in the world, some of it directly linked back, like the Aborigines in Australia, were hunted because of Darwinian concepts. Darwinism lays the foundation for racism. So here you have a fruit fly. This has been bombarded with more technology and evolutionary processes than anything else. You'll see there are fruit flies with brown eyes, with red eyes, with white eyes, with one body, with two bodies, with one wing pair, with two pairs, with no pairs, with short wings, with long wings, but it's always fruit flies. How many tunes can I play on a piano? Unlimited tunes, but it's always piano music. How many tunes can I play on a violin? Unlimited number of tunes, but it's always violin music. You know, the different mindsets are just different. And if we know that God is a lover of variety, then we can experience the beauty of different flowers, the different aspects of our lives, different ways of thinking.